Good morning! Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. I'm former Press Secretary Mike Toledo from the administration of Joseph Erap Estrada.
Good morning. I'm former spokesperson Margaux Salcedo, also from President Joseph Estrada's administration. And we are
the Spokes. From the palace halls, then to our group chats now.
We'll give you perspectives from an insider's position standing behind the podium.
For our first weekend headline on Noted by the Spokes, the Senate majority has reached a consensus to move the impeachment trial to 3 p.m. Well,
Yeah, that's a good move, I think.
a very, very good move because, as you know, an impeachment usually takes about, per hearing, per day, is about 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah,
Kaya-
there's so much to talk about now, the LEDAC, the priority bills. And
Exactly.
today, on the way here, I
Yes.
heard them, there's a hearing already. They were talking about the continuing the barangay elections.
Yes.
And Comelec Chair George Garcia, they were discussing whether it should be 3 years or 5 years. Senator Chis Escudero was asking for their position on that.
Yes, another very important issue which perhaps we could also take up in the Spokes. I guess, I was with the Senate President Win Gatchalian, who, by the way, I think is doing a great job also handling the impeachment proceedings, among others, because it's not easy. So he did say that they plan to really fast-track this because I think there's already may public sentiment na na parang nababagalan na sila, ibang tao nga, nabobore na. Kaya sinasabi nila, and it's so technical daw, kaya even the spokesperson of the Senate Impeachment Court reached out to the public saying, be more patient because of the technicalities and all that. They have to follow certain procedure. But at the end of the day, yes, we do have to follow certain procedure because of due process. But really, at the end of the day, this is an impeachment trial. So let's get rid of some of those technicalities. And I'm glad that the Senate is really actually acting quickly on this and ensuring that through a proper scheduling, they will not, of course, leave their very important legislative work, but at the same time, concentrate and also work for a fast resolution of this very historic and important impeachment proceedings.
But I think more than people getting bored and medyo nagpaplateau na sila, di ba? Nasa point of diminishing
yes.
returns na sila. But I think more than that, we just really have to resolve it already so that we can move forward as a nation.
I totally agree. Para ano ba talaga, di ba? If convicted or acquitted, then let's move on.
Yes. And total, 2 years na lang to go, 2028.
Correct.
Graduate na.
They're targeting
November.
about by November, but they're also targeting something like 1 witness per day. No, yun ang and hopefully they'll be finished by November or December.
And hopefully hindi na ma-hold ulit ng mga habagat because also noted by the Spokes,
Yes.
we are bracing for rainy days ahead as Typhoon Saudel is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility today and will enhance southwest monsoon. So, dalawa daw po yan eh. There's Obet and Neneng.
That's true. Obet and Neneng.
Saudel
Sometimes I wonder
and
how they really choose the names.
Gunnery. Mas meron siyang international name. Mahirap i-pronounce.
Okay.
French yata siya. Kasi Neneng po siya sa Tagalog.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
hopefully. Pero handa na daw yung DSWD is what I saw. They've been doing an excellent job in responding
That's
to
true.
the disasters. So they're ready for this new wave.
Actually, yun nga tinatawag nilang pre-positioning. And I'm happy to also share with our viewers that government has really been acting as fast as possible, also with the cooperation of other stakeholders like the private sector. Tumutulong din ang mga ibang private sector na involved dito sa mga mitigation, relief operations. No? One of them, for example, is the Philippine Disaster Resiliency Foundation, the first private sector-led organization which actually addresses these kinds of things. Kaya kudos to you all and to all our listeners, of course, lalo na dun mga si Bill, Bilus, si Butch Mailey, and kasama dyan si Jaime Augusto Zubel, si Sabina Boitis, saka si Manny Pangilinan. No? So,
Of course,
malaking bagay.
former DNR Secretary Loizaga
Yes.
is also very much involved with this now as special advisor to the President.
Very, very much involved. In fact, before we go, before we take a short break, leaving the headlines, yung mamaya, merong very important Engineering Resilience Forum. And ito, pag-uusapan naman earthquake sa peninsula gagawin. Nandun si Secretary Gibo at si Secretary Tony. Kasi hindi lang po bagyo ang kalaban natin dito sa Pilipinas. We're now in the Pacific Rim of Fire. And because of that, we are blessed with a lot of minerals, but at the same time cursed with a lot of earthquakes and typhoons.
Yeah, so mag-ingat po tayo. Makulimlim na daw po ngayon. So sa ating mga kababayan, mag-ready na po tayo. Kung kailangan po nating lumikas na po tayo.
Tama. Now, these are the headlines noted by the spokes. Up next, and I'm very happy and proud to announce this, is the only Filipino to have served as a judge in the ICC, no less than Judge Raul Pangalangan. When the spokes return after this short break, don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. You're still watching The Spokes. As the trial of former President Rodrigo Duterte draws closer, we get a rare perspective from someone who knows how the International Criminal Court or the ICC works.
Joining us is former ICC Judge, former Dean of the UP College of Law, Judge Raul Pangalangan.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning,
Margaux.
Dean.
And
good morning, Mike.
Welcome to The Spokes,
And not to mention,
Judge.
he was also, because I had a food column in the Enquirer
Oh, by the
for
way,
20,
she's a food critic.
20
Okay.
years, and
Anyway,
he was
yeah.
our publisher.
Yeah.
That's true. And I'm also pleased to share, so to speak, that we were contemporaries in the UP College of Law.
Yeah.
He was a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I was one of the witnesses of how brilliant this guy is.
Oh, you're very kind, Mike.
But I was able to visit him in the ICC.
Yeah.
yes.
That's
At The
even
Hague.
better.
At the
Hague.
Hague. Yes.
Did he take you around?
Yes, he did, actually.
did?
Yeah, we had good fish and chips. Yeah.
I never had a chance to visit in the Hague. However, natatandaan ko na one time nagkwentuhan kami na there was a time that he was studying / teaching in an institution or a school in Lake Como. I was so jealous.
Yeah, that's
Ang
in
sosyal
Bellagio.
naman.
In Bellagio,
Was it
yes.
in the house of George Clooney?
No, it was a Rockefeller Foundation fellowship, yes.
Well,
Sir, so let's go back po. So
Okay.
first is let's talk about that story about how you became the ICC judge. Very historical. What was the process like? Like, how are you so blessed?
Okay. When I learned that my former professor, Miriam Defensor Santiago, was not going to assume the office, some of my friends, my former students actually, asked if I was interested to put my name for consideration. And then I was eventually nominated by Secretary Albert Del Rosario. And then, of course, since it is a nomination by the Republic, it had to be signed by President Aquino.
well,
And
it's-
but I needed, Mike, I had to campaign all over again for a fresh mandate, for a fresh election. It is elected by the member states of the ICC.
So you were there from what year to what
Yeah.
year?
From 2015 to 2021.
So when you say campaigning, it's just like when you're campaigning, for example, for a seat in the Security Council or a UN General Assembly.
That is correct. I
Secretariat. You
had to visit the embassies in The Hague. I had to go to the UN in New York to meet with the permanent missions there and get the vote of the individual member states.
Sayang po hindi nagtagal or you would be there now for
No,
this trial.
it is a fixed term at The Hague,
Yes.
no re-election, no renewal. And so when I finished my term in 2021, I came back home to resume teaching at UP.
I know. You know, Professor Miriam Defensor Santiago was also my professor. And I did learn a lot from her in international law. And I think she gave me a good grade. I think. Anyway.
As
the thing-
practitioners of international law, is it very different from Philippine law?
Certain basic principles are there, but at the end of the day, at that time when we were studying international law, we considered it a soft law. Why is it soft? Because while there is a law, it's really the enforcement that is an issue. Diba? Kasi paano mo i-enforce? But I think through the years, that has evolved to be more of a stronger law.
Ganun po ba?
Indeed, as we can see from the ICC
Yes.
regime, it is secured by treaty obligations by the member states.
So, pacta sunt servanda.
That is correct. The states sign on for the obligations, and therefore the states are duty-bound to carry them. So it's not soft in any way vis-a-vis the member states. But the thing, Mike, also that I saw in The Hague is the mix between the civil law and the common law. It's
I see.
The Hague is the court is heavily influenced by the European continental tradition. And what we're familiar with in the Philippines is more the American tradition.
Were you the only Asian there?
No. There was a Korean and there was a Japanese. And they, by the way, are the biggest supporters of the court, of the ICC.
Yes, I saw that with respect to, because apparently the ICC is funded by the member states.
That is correct.
And Japan has been contributing heavily.
That is correct. The formula is the same as in contributions to the UN, a percentage. It is of the GNP of the state. So quite obviously, Japan would have a huge contribution compared to the Philippines.
The ICC is created by the Rome Statute.
That is
that
correct,
so?
yes.
And then, as far as I recall, the United States never ratified or signed the treaty.
That is correct. The U.S. and Russia and China. So the big powers have stayed away. Of course, the European Union is the biggest supporter of the court. Of course, Japan and Korea in Asia, they also fund the court as well.
But they're trying to also, are they trying to file cases now against President Donald Trump and then Vladimir Putin? So
Netanyahu, I understand.
That is correct.
Are they
In
able
fact,
to do that?
I have read that the U.S. has sanctions against the court, against the judges, and apparently most recently against the Japanese president of the court. It was triggered off by the warrant of arrest against Netanyahu.
I'm glad that you sort of touched on the fact that they will be filing cases perhaps against this, shall we say, the world leaders now.
Yeah.
No? But truth be told, so far, those that were actually now, or those that were convicted by the ICC thus far, most of them just belong to African countries. Maybe you're looking at about 2 or 3, and in one instance, if I am not mistaken, it was even reversed on appeal. Kaya po pwedeng i-reverse, maski na guilty ka, convicted ka sa ICC, there is still a chance to appeal. And it happened in the case of an African leader.
Yes, Bemba.
Yeah, member. How come it's just limited to...
I won't say that it is limited, Mike. But first of all, yes, the court has a pre-trial chamber.
Yes.
A trial chamber where the Duterte case is at now. And then after that, there is the appeal. Okay. But in terms of the geographic reach of the court, of course, the scope is universal depending on the ratifications. And you're correct, Mike. In the early days, all the accused were from Africa. And it really it didn't look good.
Exactly.
But I think that was more than 10 years ago. And in the past 10 years, things have changed. So there are now investigations. Oh, there is an accused from several from Asia. The Duterte from the Philippines, the president of, well, the ranking general in Myanmar. There is an investigation in Latin America, in Venezuela, which again, just like the Philippines, has threatened to resign. So the Africa focus, which was not very good for the court in the early days, I think has been largely overcome by time.
In fact, sir, that's one of the reasons that they're saying that why the conviction, if ever, of President Duterte would mean a lot for the ICC is because it would be one of the big ones, so to speak. That's the weight of this Duterte trial.
Well, I don't think that factor weighs on the court. You see, as a former judge, you're just faced with the question of the guilt or innocence of the accused before you. I mean, I'm sure for every case there are larger political considerations. But for a judge, for the trial chamber, sitting on the case, the only question is the charges and the evidence.
Let's try to understand, sir, some of the nuances of this trial. First is the Philippines withdrew from the ICC in 2019?
2019, that's right.
2019. March. So what is the implication of that for those who haven't really been following this Duterte case with The Hague?
Thank you for the question, Margaux. In fact, later I will distinguish it from the scope of the Truth Commission, which I chair
We'll
right
touch
now.
that.
Okay, so we're going there later. Okay, of course, every state has the sovereign power to sign and the sovereign power to withdraw. And then the treaty, just like any treaty, would have a clause on the effect of treaty withdrawal. because that is the sovereign prerogative of the state.
Yes.
And the terms there says that when a state withdraws, the court continues to have jurisdiction over matters already under consideration at the time of withdrawal, and over all the crimes committed at the time the state was a member of the Rome Statute. And that was affirmed, by the way, even by the Philippine Supreme Court in Pangilinan versus Cayetano. And the court said that, well, sure, the Philippines has withdrawn. They won't override, they affirmed the withdrawal of Duterte. But the court also said that, well, the court retains jurisdiction over all crimes committed while we were a member of the statute, which was from 2011 to 2019.
How did the ICC gain, so to speak, jurisdiction over the person of President Duterte? Is this by virtue of the case that was filed by Attorney Sabio earlier?
Yeah.
Or were they already investigating on their own? Are they able to do that?
Yes. Okay. I think that is a fundamental difference between the Philippines and the ICC. In the Philippines, we normally assume that cases are triggered off by a complaint affidavit by an individual.
Yes.
Although even under our rules, we're actually no different from the ICC in the sense that, well, the police can commence the criminal proceedings on their own. After all, they're prosecuting in the name of the people of the Philippines.
Yes.
That is why every criminal case is people versus the accused. Well, in the ICC, they follow very strictly that part of the procedure that we know in the Philippines. That's why the case is entitled prosecutor versus, in this case, Duterte. So the complaint complaints by several individuals in the Philippines are all evidentiary in character. They don't trigger off the case. The case is initiated, in fact, in the language of the Rome Statute, motu proprio, on its own.
Now,
by the
if that is the case,
by the prosecutor.
What is your view, Judge, with respect to perhaps the cases that are being planned to be filed against President Donald Trump and President Netanyahu? How do you think that will prosper?
Okay. The first is we begin with the investigation stage because it's now just at the pretrial stage. It has the jurisdiction of the court has been triggered off because of the we call them the state referrals. It's not the motu proprio. It's not the prosecutor acting on its own.
State referral. What is that?
Okay. There are well, I'm going into jargon here. There are three trigger mechanisms for the jurisdiction of the court. The first is, well, one is a referral from the UN Security Council, which is the most powerful.
Yes.
It's quite formidable. You know, you get votes from all the members of the council. The second is a referral by a member state. The member state says, "Hey, court, there's some problem going on there. Can you send someone to look into it?" And in which case, both methods are filtered through some sovereign mechanisms.
Okay.
And then there is when the prosecutor acts on his own. And that is what happened in the Duterte
Oh,
case.
he acted on his own. The whole time I thought it was because this Attorney Sabio from the Philippines filed with the
in fact,
ICC.
that was what I was trying to explain earlier. That is not the trigger. The trigger is the prosecutor acting on his own. And then all these complaints are evidentiary in character.
Lakas pala ng prosecutor.
Yeah,
yes.
who was the
mundo,
prosecutor
pwede
then?
niya,
It was Fatou Bensouda.
Bensouda.
And from the
correct.
Gambia.
Yes.
But in fact, Margaux, that is also why it took a while for the cases to move forward, because if it's motu proprio, there are checks against the abuses of the prosecutor, prosecutorial discretion.
No.
So he had to go through a judicial chamber, a pretrial chamber. That's what we saw.
You also became, I understand, you also became president of the ICC Trial Division.
That is correct. Yes.
What exactly does that division do?
Okay, there are three divisions: the pretrial, trial, and the appeals. The pretrial chamber will review the decision of the prosecutor to act to initiate a case. It will also confirm the charges, and that is what we saw in earlier this year, the confirmation of charges. When the three members of the pretrial chamber will make a preliminary review of the accusations and the evidence. And that shows also, Mike, that the court has many safeguards for the accused. So the accused will not, the case won't even move forward if the trial chamber says, hey, you're pushing too hard here. That is the first. So by the time we get to the trial chamber, where I sat by the time I left the court, it is very familiar to us Filipinos. That is the proper trial of the case on the merits, and the accused enjoys all the guarantees, the presumption of innocence, the burden of prosecution to prove to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, etc. Right to counsel.
Yung sa November po for President Duterte, that's already trial.
That is correct. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Margaux. That is a trial proper, and that is why, again, some people are saying, yeah, it's taking a while. Well, it's taking a while because of all the guarantees of fairness for the accused.
How significant is that? As correctly pointed out by Margaux, November will be trial. Now, how significant is that transition that now we are going into the trial stage?
First, Mike, very significant because as people may have noted, there is a new set of judges. In other words, the pretrial judges who reviewed the sufficiency of the charges have now done their job. They now transfer it to a fresh set of judges who will look at the case with the fresh eyes, fresh perspective, and to start the presentation, the formal presentation of evidence against the accused.
Parang ang bilis no nangyari because of course, what we are only able to see online and on TV for the case with the pre-trial. Di ba kasi now we're watching the impeachment trial with Sara Duterte, VP Sara Duterte, and parang talagang iniisa-isa talaga lahat ng evidence, di ba po? Did the trial for President Duterte go through that also?
No, it will go through that. In fact, it will be, for me, it is good for the Philippine judicial system, and we're three lawyers here, to see how a court proceeding, goes in the ICC. There will be all the usual guarantees that we're familiar with. There will be the occasional dramatics and theatrics by counsel. That's part of the game.
Yeah. Lawyers are paid also that way somehow.
But I thought that would be done by now in preparation for November because of the pre-trial stage.
In the pre-trial stage, the judges deliberately said, this is not a mini trial. This is just a pre-trial, a preliminary proceeding. In so many words, reserve your theatrics for the next stage.
For the next stage.
So all the technicalities, the objections you will encounter in the trial stage.
So it's going to be very exciting come November. This is live po. We will be able to watch this.
It is. I think one complication, especially for those in media, is the time zones.
Yes.
The Hague is 6 hours behind Manila. So when we start the trial there at 9:30 in the morning, it will be like mid-afternoon in Manila.
If the Filipinos really woke up or stayed up
to
watch Alex Ayala, I'm quite sure that this is something that they'll also watch. And we're talking about something like 48 specific incidents and talking about more than 70 victims. So it is quite it's quite huge to say the least. But do you need to actually prove all incidents for President Duterte to be found guilty of crimes against humanity, or is it enough, just like in an impeachment trial, that you prove one or two, and that is enough to find him guilty, and therefore must face the penalty that is to be meted out?
Well, they don't have to prove all the deaths. They have identified the roughly 6,500 officially reported by the Philippine government. They don't have to demonstrate, to prove each and every one of those 6,500.
They don't?
They don't.
Okay.
They just have to establish the pattern, because the crime, the charge is the crime against humanity of murder. So they don't have to prove each and every one of those 6,500 deaths. They just have to establish a few of them. But I think that the key element, Mike, is to establish what we call the mode of attribution, the participation by Duterte and eventually of Bato and the others.
Should the participation be direct? Must it prove, the prosecution should prove that the participation of President Duterte was direct, or can an indirect participation be enough?
Kasi po sinasabi ng marami na hindi naman talaga directly nag-participate si Pangulong Duterte.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be direct. So indirect culpability will be allowed. So there is direct, we called it the direct perpetration. There is indirect perpetration, and then there are the accessorial liability. So if the defense is, well, he wasn't the gunman, well, that's not the charge. The charge is he was the one who set, again in the jargon, the common plan to carry out these deaths, and that is why most of the evidence are his speeches. And if you recall, the instruction of the court during the first hearing day for the trial was like, can you limit the videos you're showing us? There are too many of them. Because he kept on saying the same message over and over again.
Yes. Actually, yeah, just before we go into break, you said na hindi naman niya sinabing siya talagang namaril, di ba? Pero, ang charge po sa kanya is crime against humanity.
Of murder, yes.
Yes po. So, what's the difference and like, ano po yung gravity of that crime for him to be convicted?
Well, we're familiar with murder as a crime. It rises to the level of a crime against humanity if it's considered a mass atrocity crime. In other words, the sheer scale of the victimization. And the ICC refuses to peg a number to that scale. But in this case, I think at 6,500 officially recorded, that is safely satisfied. So for me, the key element is how he took part in the common plan. And from what I read in the prosecution documents, that is what they will establish. He was the mastermind of the whole thing.
So very quickly before we go into the short commercial break, and the hanging question, because we love suspense in this program. Just to clarify, so you're saying President Duterte can be held liable or convicted even if he participated indirectly for as long as it is shown that there is causation and that he was part of a common plan.
Yes,
and
correct.
then the plan was implemented. Now, if assuming for arguendo, or for the sake of argument, that he is indeed convicted, what will that leave the fate of Senator Bato, who is supposed to be part of that plan?
At this stage, either if he's arrested soon enough, they can consolidate the case with this case, so they can be tried together. If come November he's still at large, then it will be a separate case. If we follow what was done in other ICC cases, it will be a separate trial all over again. And I worry at the judicial management of these cases, because you'll be presenting the same evidence, the same witnesses, the same theories there when it has already been heard somewhere else, and they will use the testimony there to make life difficult for the witnesses the second time around.
Okay.
But that is a worry. But if your question, Mike, is whether it's automatic that the stuff against Duterte will be used against Baton, from what I've seen in the ICC, no. They start afresh.
Yes. Okay.
So ideally po, i-consolidate na lang siya.
Yes, that is my opinion.
Thank you so much. Now, you along with Caloocan Bishop Pablo David, Raquel Fortun and others established the Civilian Independent Truth Commission, and we've heard so much about that, and started your first hearing just recently, last 13 August.
So we will discuss why the Truth Commission was created, and as Attorney Sal Panelo has put it, how would you answer his statement that it is just a one-sided propaganda? But before you answer these questions, the spokes will return after this break. The Spokes is back, still with former ICC Judge Raul Pangalangan. But before Judge Raul answers our hanging question, we'd like to acknowledge comments and questions coming from our live audience. Marami po kaming tagapakinig live. Comment from Rosa, another favorite tandem on The Spokes. Ay, thank you po. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good
And
morning.
Question from our suke, a Tiny Sushi. To
Tiny
Judge
Sushi.
Raul, do you think the Philippine government will continue its ICC cooperation after the warning of Marco Rubio, Secretary of State of the United States?
Yeah, very good question. Well, of course, it is my hope that the Philippine government will continue cooperating with my former court, because that is part of our remaining obligations under the Rome Statute, despite our withdrawal. Of course, our relations with the U.S. is quite complex, but I hope that the matter of the ICC is kept away from the other considerations. You know,
Trade.
their trade, also security arrangements for the West
Silica.
Philippine Sea. Oh yeah, come to think of it, the most recent.
The most recent,
So
yeah.
I hope they can, cabin this somewhere else.
And we all know why they want Pax Silica, but that's another episode altogether.
Yeah.
Ay, ano yan?
Now, this one naman from Erwin Aguilar. Thank you so much, Erwin. Ang tanong po ni Erwin, does PRRD's transfer to ICC have proper immigration process, state approval via note, or letter, or just verbal?
Oo nga, paano po ba siya nahuli? Kasi sabi nila, wala man lang daw siyang warrant. Di ba yung nung nangyari po lahat ng kaguluhan na yun?
For me, it's a straightforward application of the ICC, of the Rome Statute in relation to the Philippine IHL law. Because we have that law.
What's IHL po?
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. International Humanitarian Law. That is a group of treaties like the Geneva Conventions, the Protocols Additional. And then part of that law, passed by the Philippine Congress, says that when a crime against humanity like this is already being tried or prosecuted in an international criminal court.
Oh, yes.
And this is the text of the law. The Philippine government has the option to refer the matter directly.
Is that
to
the
that court.
complementarity? What do you call that?
Complementarity is yet
Yes.
another provision in the Rome Statute.
Okay.
But that is the clause in Philippine law,
yes.
which says that is an option to be made, to be exercised by the Philippine government. And since it's a foreign relations matter, that is squarely under Supreme Court rulings from the past 100 years. That is part of the prerogatives of the president.
Tapos para po mapaandar yun, we go through the DFA. Who contacts the ICC from the Philippine government?
Well, that's an internal matter for the Philippine government. But if you look at the IHL law, it says that it is an option exercised by the Philippine government.
And just to put our discussion in perspective, and correct me if I'm wrong, when President Duterte was arrested and brought out of Philippine jurisdiction, they did not invoke the ICC. They invoked an Interpol protocol. Am I correct?
That is correct. In fact, I was abroad at that time. I was following the news, and I noticed that there was a very careful effort to say that it was not by virtue of an ICC order, but by virtue, exactly, Mike, of what you said, the Interpol notice. Well, I leave that to the Philippine government on how they want to justify it, because I guess they also have to calibrate their message for domestic politics in the Philippines.
I understand.
But just looking at it squarely from the standpoint of the Rome Statute, there is that obligation to carry out the order of the court, which is a warrant of arrest, and it was carried out by virtue of the Philippine IHL law, and therefore he was sent over to The Hague for the proceedings. And I think that is the same principle that ought to be followed for Bato et al.
Okay, so we have another question coming from Sula Terra.
Sula Terra.
And I guess this might also be our segue now to discuss the Truth Commission.
Yes,
And
exactly.
ang tanong po niya ay, will the Truth Commission be the one to poke around government matters on behalf of the ICC? Yung pa yung kanyang words, poke around.
Poke around.
Poke around, huh? Tuk, tuk.
Well, I won't use that word.
The word
we will
poke.
hear
A
from
fishing
the
expedition.
we will hear from the witnesses, and we have begun with the first witness was the mother of the victim was supposed to have fought back, was supposed to have been running, and then we conducted the autopsy, and the autopsy showed that he was club-footed. So, you know, a club-footed victim running from the police. So, these are the matters we will poke into. And
Maybe before we go into the poking around, we can already lay the foundation for this, which is, what is really the Truth Commission? Where did you get your authority? Why did you come up with it?
yes, we were convened by Cardinal Pablo David and of the Bishop of the Diocese of Caloocan.
Are you an Episcopal Commission?
Well, it is Cardinal David Cardinal Ambo called for a press conference late last year, saying that there ought to be a Truth Commission, you know, to just basically get the facts. Because, you know, Margaux, after, you know, the killing started in 2016. Although, of course, the scope of the ICC investigation goes all the way back to
Vice Mayor pa daw po si
2011.
Mayor Duterte.
That is correct. And until now, we don't have any authoritative record of who were the victims, who were killed. How many? We don't even have a record of how many cases have been filed, what happened to them. So he felt it was time to sit down, get the facts together, and hear the victims tell their story. But there is the most important element is that this is not a government initiative. Because, again, going back to what Mike mentioned as complementarity, that the court will that the ICC will step in only if the local authorities are unwilling or unable genuinely to prosecute. That is the that is the scriptural language in the Rome Statute. So we have nothing. The Truth Commission has nothing to do with the government. Initiated solely by the church and by civil society organizations, and we have no prosecutorial power. We can't charge anyone. But we will hear the victims, and because we feel it is important.
Sir, on that point, when you said that they only step in when there has been, when you have not heard it in the Philippine government?
That the ICC will not step in, the ICC will step in only if the local authorities
That's the
sit on the
complementarity
case. That's the principle of complementarity.
So, in fact, there has been no trial against former President Duterte under
none.
Philippine courts.
That is correct.
So, on that note, could the ICC even take cognizance of this case?
Precisely for that reason. The ICC says, well, if you're not going to act on the case, we will act on it. That's the principle of complementarity.
Okay, so in relation po to this, we have from DDS Vancouver, DOJ Secretary Remulla said that there is no evidence against Duterte because they were allegedly deleted. What evidence will ICC use to prosecute Duterte? And I guess in relation to the Truth Commission also, at sabi niyo po ngayon, up to now, walang record ng mga ebidensya.
Well, there are scattered records, some of them, in fact, distorted. You know, families would sign any death certificate just to retrieve the bodies of their kin. Even if you know the body is full of bullets, and then the autopsy says he died of pneumonia, they would sign the document. I mean, that's what we have found out in the in the Truth Commission. And just getting the bodies from the funeraria, they have to raise funds for that. And this is a part of the story which has not been told. But going back to your question, Margaux, well, the ICC, from my experience, before it proceeds on any case, has already investigated, and will already have evidence, will already have witnesses lined up. So I will leave that to the prosecution.
The finding of the Truth Commission, your Truth Commission, for example, will you be giving, before I read the next viewer, will you be giving that finding and submitting it also for the ICC to consider and be part perhaps of the evidence?
Oh, all our findings will be made public, and we will furnish them to the Philippine government. We'll furnish them to any international authority that is interested in making use of them.
Do you have a website now?
I understand, yes, that the website is up and running. We have actually recorded the first hearing. We have the next hearing this Thursday. We also have video recordings of Cardinal Ambo. You see, it turns out in Caloocan, the night crawlers, the photojournalists, would send him live updates in real time. Like, we're here, we just heard another killing. Oh, the body's coming in, and they take pictures. And we felt that it was very important for the work of the Truth Commission to have that documented. And so instead of doing that in a formal hearing, we have produced video so that it is actually more easily accessible.
Now, we have
yes.
from an Isabela jury. Ang sabi naman niya dito, I see DDS viewers here. So I think she's giving advice. Wag na kayong mag-tune in daw dahil baka masaktan lang kayo.
Grabe naman.
Yan ang sinasabi niya.
From Teresa Salivio, DDS cannot relate on the subject matter being discussed here. No, I think for the DDS po siguro talagang they would also like to understand the process which you're an expert on. And from Bong Lee, paano yan? Walang Interpol red notice kay Senator Bato. O nga, so sinahanap pa po si Senator Bato. Anong gagawin natin? Paano po ba yan?
Kaya nga sabi mo, baka kung magkaroon, di yun na, no?
Yeah.
Now, galing naman kay Bong Sanchez. Sabi niya, as a lawyer, as a judge, is Sara Duterte guilty or should the allegations be dismissed? Of course, it's not related to this topic now, but I guess somehow, since they're taking advantage of your legal wisdom and acumen.
Balikan po natin yung hanging question. Kasi baka nanonood po si attorney.
Sasagutin.
Ay, sorry. Okay,
I'd rather stay away from the impeachment trial because that's the one thing that the Truth Commission is trying to avoid is getting embroiled in politics. We want to focus on what happened to the victims and what happened to their families. And you know, if you hear their account, it's really heart-wrenching what they went through. Because we just, even me, I read the reports, you know, another killing, another body. But when you hear the mothers and what happened to their, typically to their sons, and, you know, the intimidation that they went through. Oh, in fact, the other victims withdrawing their cases.
Yes.
Saying that, on reflection, we were just carried away by emotions and we're now withdrawing the case. You know, as Filipinos, we all know that they did not arrive at that conclusion completely on their own, that there was a lot of pressure going on behind the scenes.
And pressure could be in the form of monetary.
That is correct. Both, it's typically the arrests of some family members. To pressure them to cave in. And I've learned many things in the course of the work of the Truth Commission. Palit ulo, you know, they exchange custody of one member of the family for another. I've heard, you know, I was shocked to hear this, palit puri, where
that word again, puri. Yeah.
A member is a family member is typically the dad is arrested, and they ask for special favors from female members of the family. You know, shocking things. The autopsy, they're token autopsies, meaning performed just for the sake of complying with some regulations. The autopsy lip, you know, like stuff that that as a constitutional law professor and international law professor I have not encountered. In fact, even compared to my work as ICC judge, it is still a learning experience for me to be exposed to things happening right here in my own country.
I think we have to extend a lot of compassion to them also because sometimes they have very many ways of dealing with their grief and moving on. So, I mean, I guess if some of them withdraw, then we just have to understand maybe what they're going through. It might be compromising justice in the end, but then at the same time, we have to respect the family.
Well, that is correct, Margaux. In fact, I must mention that the members of the Truth Commission selected by Cardinal Ambo cover all those needs. So we have Dr. Al Fuertes, who is a trauma and grief specialist, a member of the commission to deal with this angle. We have Kaloy Conde, formerly of New York Times, formerly of Human Rights Watch. We have Father Danny Pilario, president of Adamson University, a trained sociologist, and who has actually lived in the slums himself as part of his mission. And of course, for the leading forensic expert in the Philippines, Dr. Raquel Fortun. So we cover that. But you're so correct. Convincing the witnesses to step forward is a big struggle for the Truth Commission. And I would like to through your program to thank again one word that I encountered, the care providers, because it is the care providers, usually church organized groups, that have given sanctuary and encouragement to these families.
Yes, but your focus is just the extrajudicial killings. You're not going beyond that. Kasi tinanong po kanina kung yung mga iba pang mga issues.
That is correct. Madalas yan tanungin sa amin, Margaux, are you just focusing on this period of history? Why not other periods? So short answer, we are focusing just on the extrajudicial killings related to the war on drugs. Because if we spread... if we cast the net too wide, we would be distracted. It won't be manageable. We have to do what can be covered in the here and now.
So balikan po natin si Attorney Sal Panelo.
Yeah.
Sabi po niya,
sana nanonood si Sal, no?
Sana hindi siya busy sa mga Miss Universe around the world. How would you answer his statement that it is just one-sided propaganda?
Okay, it is not. In fact, we welcome all sides to come before the Truth Commission. And we have actually, in our preparations, we have received feelers from police who would like to step forward. But again, they are afraid. Some are in hiding. So we are prepared to hear from anyone who wishes to speak their truth before the commission.
Including those po who have said that the war on drugs was actually effective.
Yes, in fact, I've got to tell you, we have monitored the online responses to the work of the Truth Commission. So there's it's a mixed reaction. Some very sympathetic to the victims, and the others saying exactly what you're saying. Effective. It was effective, and some actually mocking the victims. The one thing that I remember is
Grabe naman yun. Wag naman tayo mag-mock ng
in one
victims.
quotation saying, "Napakabait ho ng anak ko, addict lang." You know the usual.
That is actually a point of quandary for many families.
Yes, that is. So it's by way of undermining the witness.
Now we're going to our favorite part of the program, because these are what we call the tough questions. So
Okay.
it's even tougher than the previous questions, and this is related to what we sort of touched earlier. Now, the first tough question: is there a possibility that the prosecution, regardless of the thousands of materials, the documents, the testimonies, they cannot link President Duterte to the crimes he is being accused of?
Well, you have focused on, I think, the most difficult part of the prosecution's case, the link. Again, as I've told you, the jargon is the mode of attribution. Because if the question is the actual killings, I think it is all recorded. It is not denied. The mode of the execution, literally, of the victims, again, is not denied. The numbers, in fact, the 6,500 number is taken from government reports under Duterte. So again, it's not denied. So I think the key element, Mike, exactly as you say, is the how to link him. And there are many ways to do it, but that is the challenge. So I think, Mike, you were suggesting that if he will get acquitted, it will be on that on that issue, and I think you have a point there.
Actually, let's go to if he is convicted, because it seems that there is this impression that the IEC is determined to convict him. If he is, let's go po both ways. So if the ICC convicts him, what will happen then? And if he is acquitted, what's the next step? I guess he goes home and
Okay, well, I'll give an institutional answer. The prosecution is determined to convict him. That is their job. And they wouldn't have started this if they weren't convinced that they can achieve a conviction. The judges are a completely separate matter. And again, it is so difficult to explain that separation of powers at the ICC is very, very strictly enforced. The prosecution lawyers, if I meet them in the dining room, won't even talk to me. And if I even try to engage them in some polite conversation, like, hey, how's your day? Yes. You will notice that they are so uncomfortable. They're like looking if someone is watching. Unlike in the Philippines, we're so, in our culture,
friendly.
Yeah, we're friendly. We, it's all gray area for us.
So like Caesar's wife, beyond suspicion.
Oh yeah, we're very careful.
Yeah.
We're very careful. So even if I meet the prosecutor in some diplomatic reception, we can't go beyond hello and good evening.
Quickly, before we thank you, fearless forecast, conviction, acquittal.
For me, the prosecution wouldn't have gotten this far if they didn't have the goods on Duterte. So I have seen the kind of preparation that they do. Oh, in fact, Mike, one thing taken very seriously at the ICC, not taken too seriously in Manila, is the duty of the prosecution to disclose all evidence to the defense, including exculpatory evidence, and that is taken very seriously at the court. So if you look at the disclosures so far, I think they have enough material on their side.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, kung makonvict po si former President Rodrigo Duterte, what happens to him? Is he going to be imprisoned, and where, and what will be the process?
For sure, he will. There will be a prison term.
Oh, but he can still appeal.
Of course, he can still appeal. Yes, he will appeal.
Yes.
And the appeal is, again, a matter of right, because some appeals in the ICC are by leave of court.
Yes.
Now, where the sentence is served depends not on the court, but on the registry. It negotiates with a member state willing to take him in. And in some, in the early days, some, like Mike mentioned, in African states, they would prefer to be jailed in their home countries. But again, in the experience of the court, sometimes because, again, in many countries, including the Philippines, the political seasons change. If at the time they're there, they're not friends with the administration. The life becomes more difficult.
Pwede po siyang makauwi pa rin sa Pilipinas po, even if convicted?
Well, we are not a member of the Rome Statute anymore, so we're not eligible to provide him a prison facility in the Philippines.
Okay, so on that note, thank you so much, Judge Raul Pangalangan.
Thank you for having me, Marco.
In a court of law, including the ICC, numbers, politics, and public opinion do not decide guilt. Proof does.
As the trial of former President Duterte is set to begin this coming November, the real test is whether justice can remain above politics, the politics that surround it. I'm former spokesperson Margaux Salcedo.
And I'm former Press Secretary Mike Toledo.
And we are the Spokes.